संकीर्तन यज्ञ की, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
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 नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्योत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Reading from Canto 5, titled The Creative Impetus, chapter number 1, titled The Activities of Maharaj Priyavrata. Text 1. राजोवाच प्रियव्रतो भागवत आत्मा रामः कथं मुने गृहे रमतयन्मूलः कर्मबन्धः पराभवः। प्रियव्रतो भागवत आत्मरामः कथं मुने गृहे रमतयन्मूलः कर्मबन्धः पराभवः। प्रियव्रतो भागवत आत्मारामः कथं मुने गृहे रमतयन्मूलः कर्मबन्धः पराभवः। राजोवाच प्रियव्रतो भागवत आत्मारामः कथं मुने गृहे रमतयन्मूलः कर्मबन्धः पराभवः।
राजोवाच
प्रियव्रतो भागवत
आत्मारामः कथं
मुने
गृहे रमतयन्मूलः कर्मबन्धः पराभवः। राजोवाच प्रियव्रतो भागवत आत्मारामः कथं मुने गृहे रमतयन्मूलः कर्मबन्धः पराभवः। राजोवाच प्रियव्रतो भागवत आत्मारामः कथं मुने गृहे रमतयन्मूलः कर्मबन्धः पराभवः।
What two word meanings? Raja Uvacha. King Parikshit said, Priyavrataha, King Priyavrata, Bhagavataha, the great devotee, Atma Aramaha, one who takes pleasure in self-realization. Katham, why? Mune, O great sage, Grihe, at home, Aramata, enjoyed, Yat Mulaha, having which as the root cause, Karma Bandhaha, the bondage of the fruitive activities, Parabhavaha, defeat of one's human mission. Translation: and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Translation. King Parikshit inquired from Shukdev Goswami, O great sage, why did King Priyavrata, who was a great self-realized devotee of the Lord, remain in household life, which is the root cause of bondage of karma, fruitive activities, and which defeats the mission of human life? Purport. In the fourth canto, Srila Shukadeva Goswami explains that Narad Muni perfectly instructed King Priyavrata about the mission of human life. The mission of human life is to realize one's self and then gradually go back home, back to Godhead. Since Narad Muni instructed the king fully on this subject, why did he again enter household life, which is the main cause of material bondage? Maharaj Parikshit was greatly astonished that King Priyavrata remained in household life, especially since he was not only a self-realized soul, but also a first-class devotee of the Lord. A devotee actually has no attraction for household life, but surprisingly, King Priyavrata enjoyed household life very much. One may argue, why is it wrong to enjoy household life? The reply is that in household life one becomes bound by the results of fruitive activities. The essence of household life is sense enjoyment, and as long as one engrosses his mind in working hard for sense enjoyment, one becomes bound by the reactions of the fruitive activities. This ignorance of self-realization is the greatest defeat in human life. The human form of life is especially meant for getting out of the bondage of fruitive activities. But as long as one is forgetful of his life's mission and acts like an ordinary animal, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, he must continue his conditioned life of material existence. Such a life is called Swarup Vismriti, forgetfulness of one's real constitutional position. Therefore, in Vedic civilization, one is trained in the very beginning of life as a brahmachari. A brahmachari must execute austerities and refrain from sex indulgence. Therefore, if one is completely trained in the principles of brahmacharya, he generally does not enter household life. He is then called a Naishtika brahmachari, which indicates total celibacy. King Parikshit was thus astonished that the great King Priyavrata, although trained in the principles of Naishtika brahmacharya, entered household life. The words Bhagavata, Atma Ramaha are very significant in this verse. If one is self-satisfied, as is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is called Bhagavat Atma Ramaha. There are different types of satisfaction. Karmis are satisfied in their fruitive activities. Jnanis are satisfied to merge in the effulgence of Brahman. And devotees are satisfied to engage in the Lord's service. The Lord is self-satisfied because he is fully opulent, and one who is satisfied by serving him is called Bhagavat Atma Ramaha. Manushyanam Sahasreshu. Out of many thousands of persons, one may endeavor for liberation. And of many thousands of persons attempting to become liberated, one may achieve liberation from anxieties of material existence and become self-satisfied. Even that satisfaction, however, is not the ultimate satisfaction. The jnanis and the karmis have desires, as do the yogis, but devotees have no desires. Satisfaction in the service of the Lord is called akama, freedom from desire. And this is the ultimate satisfaction. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit inquired, how could one who was fully satisfied on the highest platform be satisfied with family life? The word parabhavaha in this verse is also significant. When one is satisfied in family life, he is doomed because he must already have forgotten his relationship with the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj describes how activities of family life implicate one more and more. Atmapatam grihamandha kupam. household life is like a dark well. If one falls into this well, his spiritual death is assured. How Priyavrat Maharaj remained in a liberated Paramahamsa, how Priyavrat Maharaj remained a liberated Paramahamsa even within family life is described in the next verse. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादां सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकाकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वत देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं हरे ओम तत्सत्। Hare Krishna. So the flow of Bhagavatam is one of the most beautiful, pristine flows which a human mind can find. So the first and the second canto, there are 10 topics in Srimad Bhagavatam. Atra sarga visargascha sthanam poshanam utayah manvantare shanukatha nirodhor muktir ashraya. So, the first and the second canto, according to the Padma Puran, they are compared to the two lotus feet of Krishna. Primarily, the first canto talks about Sarga. That is the primary creation. It talks about, it establishes how Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It very beautifully describes the glory of Bhakti Yoga. There are some beautiful prayers, heart-touching, heartfelt prayers by personalities like Kunti, Arjuna, even Bhishma. Very nicely, Shukdev Goswami describes various aspects of Bhakti. The history of the entire Bhagavatam is described in the first canto. How Parikshit Maharaj was saved in the womb of Uttara. The feelings of Uttara are so noble. She is running and coming towards Lord Krishna. Her 5 world-conquering grandfathers are standing in front of her. But she didn't take help from them. She went to Krishna. And she said that, please protect my progeny. Compare this to the women of Kali Yuga. They run to the doctors to say, please kill my progeny. That is the difference between Uttara and the women of Kali Yuga. That's why we are talking about Uttara in Srimad Bhagavatam. So all this is very nicely described in the first canto. Second canto is one of those cantos which has the biggest purports and the biggest descriptions. I heard in a lecture that Srila Prabhupada, when he was translating the second canto in the Radha Damodar temple, he fell sick. So he was not sure whether he would be able to translate the rest of the cantos or not. So he put the entire Bhagavad philosophy in the second canto. So therefore, second canto, if one can read nicely at least 2 times, then they are qualified to become a representative of Srila Prabhupada, because he has put everything in that second canto. And second canto is also very beautiful. It talks about the creation aspects of the Lord, how the various demigods came into existence, how the various senses and tanmatras came into existence. But the Chatushloki Bhagavatam also, various aspects. The third canto primarily is the conversation. Third and the fourth canto are considered to be the 2 thighs of the Lord. And they are very beautifully describing various aspects of Vaishnava character. Primarily, it is the conversation between Maitreya Muni and Mahatma Vidur. The third canto gives us detail of life in Vaikuntha. The third canto gives us detail of great personalities like Narad Muni. It gives us further detail into the pastimes of Varahadev, Hiranyakashipu, etc. It also talks about the beautiful life of Kardamuni and Devabhuti, and how the great Sankhya Yoga philosophy of Kapil Muni is being described in the third canto. The fourth canto talks about the beautiful Vaishnava characters of personalities like Lord Shiva, Prithu Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj. The fourth canto also talks about how we can learn great lessons from the behavior of personalities like Daksha, Suruchi, Maharaj Prachina Barhishat. The fact that all these personalities underwent a great positive change in their life, it further establishes the glory of Bhakti Yoga as a process which is most superior to all other processes. And the pristine flow of Srimad Bhagavatam in the fifth canto is such that some part of the fifth canto talks about the Visarga, and the later part of the fifth canto talks about Sthanam, or the position of the various planetary systems. It ends with the descriptions of hell. Fifth canto is compared to the lotus navel of the Lord. So meditating on that beautiful lotus navel, which is the source of all creation in this universe, from which the Chaturmukhi Brahma has emerged, let us now begin studying the fifth canto of Bhagavatam, jumping into the lotus navel of the Lord. Text number 1. King Parikshit inquired from Shukdev Goswami, O great sage, why did King Priyavrata, who was a great self-realized devotee of the Lord, remain in household life, which is the root cause of bondage of karma, fruitive activities, and which defeats the mission of human life? So previously, in the fourth canto, we see Maharaj Uttanapad and his dynasty is ruling up till the time of Prachetas. The son of the Prachetas was benedicted to be as good as Brahma. So it is Daksha who takes birth. It is the Daksha part 2, or the second life of Daksha. But he immediately goes for austerities. And then there was no one to rule the universe. So the second son of Maharaj, Swayambhuva Manu, is Priyavrata. Till now he is having the association of Narad Muni, all this time when for millions of years the dynasty of Maharaj Uttanapad is ruling. He is there with Narad Muni chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. And he is fully absorbed in hearing the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord, studying the Srimad Bhagavatam, finishing Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Sarvabhaum, and even beyond. And practicing it also. Srila Prabhupada says, higher than philosophy is the practice of the philosophy. So Swayambhuva, Priyavat Maharaj, in the association of Devarashi, Narad Muni, was practicing that philosophy very nicely and had become a Naishtika Brahmachari. Becoming a Naishtik Brahmachari is the greatest and the most rewarding discipline in this universe. If there is any discipline which can make one seriously happy in life, it is this discipline. It's one of the most rewarding disciplines. It is making life simple and favorable for surrender to God, surrender to Krishna. However, from the pastime of Priyavat Maharaj, we come to know that absorption in Krishna consciousness cannot be impeded in any circumstances. Priyavat Maharaj was very nicely in the association of Narad Muni, serving him and dedicating his life to Krishna. But then, we will see later in this chapter that on the request of Lord Brahma, and there is no one else to rule, he takes up the rulership of the whole universe. And then, by his great power and by his great potential, he divides the whole Bhumandala into 7 parts, which become the 7 Dvipas. And then he appoints his 7 sons as the king of various Dvipas, which in turn will have various Varshas. So we are in the Jambu Dvipa, in the Bharat Varsha, in the Bharat Khanda. Those who have seen the Archana mantra for worship, you will see the whole system. It starts from which Kalpa we are in, and which Dvipa we are in, which Khanda we are in, which Nagar we are in, which Mass is going on, everything it tells you. So if you want to know your address or address with respect to time, place and everything, then try to learn Archana mantras. So Maharaj Priyavrata had to be called back because Maharaj Priyavrata had all good qualities. So he had to be called back by Lord Brahma to rule. And then for the next 5 Manvantras, Priyavrata Maharaj and his dynasties ruled. And in 6th Manvantara, Daksha finished his austerities, comes back and takes back the rulership of the whole universe. So that was the brief of the first chapter of 5th canto of Bhagavatam. Now, a very great question is being asked by Parikshit Maharaj. That somebody who has already got a higher taste in life. Prabhupada tells in the purport that the essence of household life is sense enjoyment, and as long as one engrosses his mind in working hard for sense enjoyment, one becomes bound by the reactions of fruitive activities. So somebody who has got a higher taste in life, why should he come down to the lower taste? Somebody who is enjoying pure devotional service in the association of Mahabhagavats like Narad Muni, why they should take to sense enjoyment? Prabhupada says, generally one who is trained as a Naishtik Brahmachari, where is it? He was telling someone. If one is completely trained in the principles of Brahmacharya, he generally does not enter household life. So for various Manvantras, he has trained in Naishtik Brahmacharya. Why is he entering now? That is the question of Parikshit Maharaj. And the same aspect Prabhupada is taking to highlight the advantages and disadvantages of Grihastha life. And Prabhupada is the most suitable person to speak about this because Prabhupada has actually seen both sides of the coin. There are many acharyas who have not seen both sides of the coin. They are Naistik brahmacharis. But Prabhupada is one of those acharyas who has actually seen both sides of the coin and is very suited to speak like this. Nobody can challenge Prabhupada that how can he speak like this. If Shankaracharya speaks like this, people will say, Acha, he is speaking like this. He is never married, so he doesn't know. If Madhvacharya, okay, Madhvacharya has also seen both sides of the coin. Yeah, so if Naistik brahmacharis speak like this, people may argue, you have not tasted what is life. You don't know what you are talking about. But Prabhupada has full right. So therefore, Prabhupada is very emphatically saying that a devotee actually has no attraction for household life, but surprisingly, King Priyavrata enjoyed household life. So one may argue, why is it wrong to enjoy household life? So here is the answer. The reply is that in household life, one becomes bound by the results of the fruitive activities. Why? Because the essence of household life is sense enjoyment, and as long as one engrosses his mind in working hard for sense enjoyment, one becomes bound by the reactions of fruitive activities. This ignorance of self-realization is the greatest defeat in human life. So sense enjoyment is the central aspect of materialistic household life. Srila Prabhupada tells that if one embraces a woman, he forgets everything about Krishna. The other day, I was reading that chapter of in the Krishna book where Krishna was invited by Kubja to her house for sense enjoyment and service. So it is described in the Krishna book how nicely Kubja has decorated the house in a very stimulating way. She has, Prabhupada writes, she has put stimulating pictures on the walls. She has put nice curtains, everything is stimulating sex desire. And Krishna comes, he comes into that, he leaves Uddhava outside the room. He personally enters the room, sits on her bed, gives her his lotus feet, and it is said that by the touch of the lotus feet of Krishna, the lusty desires of Kubja vanish, they go away. And then Krishna again takes back his lotus feet and comes out. Imagine if somebody else other than Krishna would have entered there. So for a conditioned soul, or even, let's speak like, except the Lord and the person who is blessed by the Lord, no one can overcome this influence of sense enjoyment in the household life. No one. And because it is such a great defeat of the self-realization of life, so therefore it is considered as an opportunity lost by Maharaj Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit is also a householder and he has also seen ups and downs in life. So when he hears that such a thing has happened, he is worried, like, why does this happen? Look at me, I'm in the last 7 days of my life and I've given up. I'm not sitting with my wife and talking to her. I'm not sitting with my children. I'm not sitting with my family members and the prestige and the society and the rulership which I have. I'm sitting here with sages and I'm just discussing Krishna Katha with you. And Priyavrat Maharaj did it for thousands of years. Why did he enter into? 7 days are enough for me. And he has got the association with Narmani for millions of years. Why did he enter? So, Prabhupada generally says, Prabhupada is also saying that King Parikshit was thus astonished that the great King Priyavrata, although trained in the principles of Naistik and Brahmacharya, entered household life. So the principle here is that be a first-class learner. Srila Prabhupada always has ordered his disciples in his letters, even in his writings, that if one can remain a brahmachari throughout his life, that is the best thing to do. However, if one cannot tolerate the sex urge and one is embarrassed by the arrows of Cupid, then one should accept a lawfully wedded wife and lead the life as a peaceful grihastha. This is the sanction which Prabhupada gives. In the Krishna book, not only Prabhupada says, but even Krishna says this. When he's talking with Sudama, when Sudama comes to meet him in the palace of Rukmini, at that time Krishna is also saying the same thing. That, my dear friend, one should try to serve his spiritual master and try to remain a humble servant of his spiritual master and stay in his ashram. However, if one is not able to do so, then one must accept a lawfully wedded wife. Like that Krishna is also saying. So this is the principle. If one can be a first class learner, then one should become a first class learner. That is the message which Srimad Bhagavatam is giving. Prabhupada is saying the words Bhagavat, Atma, Ramaha are very significant in this verse. If one is self-satisfied as is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is called Bhagavat, Atma, Ramaha. There are different types of satisfaction. Karmis are satisfied in their fruitive activities, Jnanis are satisfied to merge into the effulgence of Brahman, and devotees are satisfied to engage in the Lord's service. The Lord is self-satisfied because he is fully opulent, and one who is satisfied by serving him is called Bhagavat Atma Ramaha. So, if one becomes a devotee of the Lord, tries to dedicate their lives to the service of the Lord in such a way that they only serve the Lord and take out all the time to serve the Lord, they come in the category of Bhagavat Atma Ramaha. So one who is Bhagavat Atma Ramaha, one who is fully satisfied, why should he go elsewhere? The purpose of life is to become satisfied. The Bhagavad Gita says that one of the keys of satisfaction is to become like the ocean. There are many rivers entering the ocean, but the ocean does not cross its limit and the ocean does not become agitated by the inflow of the various rivers. So one should be like that. If one tries to satisfy all the desires which are passing through the courtyard of their heart, then one can never be peaceful. No shantim apanoti kam kami. That's the statement of Bhagavad Gita. So the kam kami, or the desire for material sense gratification, is such a big disease that one has to go through the ordeal of birth, one has to go through the ordeal of desire for name, fame, puja, labh, man, pratishtha. One has to go through the ordeal of materialistic household life. One has to go through the ordeal of embarrassment in various ways in life. One has to go through the ordeal of disease. One has to go through the ordeal of death and old age. This kama kami is so dangerous thing. In one lecture, Srila Prabhupada says, Krishna's business towards those souls who have desired to come in the material world, for them, Krishna's business is to give them such an experience that they should realize that other than the Lord himself, they have no real friend, and other than service to the Lord, they have no other engagement. To make the conditioned souls realize this, that is the business of Krishna. And that is why we have been put in the material world, to realize this point. And Krishna will, if we are sincere and little bit serious also in the path of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna will do everything to make us realize this. Of course, when we are not sincere, if we are atheists, if we are not surrendered to Krishna, then Krishna will not interfere much in our life and he will leave us to the laws of material nature. But if we are little bit serious also, and little bit also if we relish the association of devotees, and little bit also genuinely, even once in our lifetime, if we have performed some aspect of devotional service, then Krishna will take full advantage of that and will give us a treatment in which we will realize that what is the true purpose of life. Human life is only meant for doing devotional service, and anything else which is done is a waste of time. So this realization is the essence of Krishna consciousness, and Krishna tries to give this realization to his devotees. Now, sometimes we see that some impediments come in the life of the devotees also. One may argue that Maharaj Priyavrat's life was going on very nicely. Why did Lord Brahma come down, smile compassionately upon Priyavrat, and forced him to enter into Grihastha life, even against his desire? The Bhagavatam says that Priyavrat did not welcome this suggestion from Lord Brahma, but being an obedient grandson, he took to heart that decision, knowing that it is the will of the Supreme Lord, and without any grudges executed the order of Lord Brahma. So therefore, Priyavrat Maharaj is glorified all around the universe for his great character. This gives us another lesson that our own satisfaction in serving Krishna, or Krishna's satisfaction, is greater than our own satisfaction in serving Krishna. Krishna wanted to make a great example to the world by using a personality like Priyavrat Maharaj, that how absorption in Krishna consciousness cannot be impeded in any circumstances. Krishna wanted this, the whole world to know. Just like through Bharat Maharaj, he wanted to show to the whole world that how to be very careful in the practice of Bhakti Yoga. Similarly, through Priyavrat Maharaj, he wanted to show to the whole world that absorption in Krishna consciousness cannot be impeded under any circumstances, in any place, in any time. This was Krishna's plan. Any other plan other than Krishna's plan is a rascal plan. And ultimately only Krishna's plan will prevail. Human life is meant to give up the rascaldom of rascal plans and surrender to the supreme, most intelligent plan of Krishna. So Priyavrat Maharaj's satisfaction was to serve his spiritual master. But Krishna's satisfaction was to show the world how great is the process of devotional service. So that's why I'm saying, Krishna's satisfaction is greater than our own satisfaction in devotional service. The gopis also showed this through their process. Their own satisfaction was that Krishna should stay in Vrindavan. But then when they understood the mood of Krishna, they surrendered to his desire and spent a lifetime in separation from him, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. And we see that this is the nature of devotees of Krishna in various circumstances. They always wait to understand what Krishna wants, and they sacrifice their personal desires, personal opinions, personal pleasures, which are not pleasures in the modes of material nature, personal transcendental pleasures for the ultimate pleasure of Krishna. Now, impediments come in the life of devotees. When we read the pastime of Priyavrat Maharaj, we'll see at one point of time, while reading the Bhagavatam slokas, we'll realize that probably household life became an impediment for Priyavrat Maharaj also. That's why he had to give it up at the end. So impediments can be of various kinds. The first kind of impediment which comes in the life of a devotee is Vaishnava Aparadha. When one devotee offends another devotee, that is a serious impediment in devotional service. When one devotee sufficiently suffers in his devotional life, like having no taste in chanting for years together, just an example, then that offense can be nullified. One example which is coming to my mind is the example of Dvivid Gorilla. Dvivid Gorilla was in the army of Lord Ram, and he had offended Lakshmana, who is Guru Tattva. And he had some differences with Lord Ram. So that is serious Vaishnava Aparadha. So he suffered for many yugas together, and ultimately was again killed by Guru Tattva, that is Balaram. So after sufficient suffering, a serious Vaishnava Aparadha is mitigated. Sometimes a Vaishnava Aparadha is immediately nullified also. The example is Maharaj Rahugana. Maharaj Rahugana accidentally, knowingly, unknowingly, we'll read in this canto, will offend Bharat, the great Mahabhagavat, Jad Bharat. But then by the mercy of Jad Bharat, that offense was immediately nullified, and Jad Bharat pulled Maharaj Rahugana to the platform of Mahabhagavat by instructing him in the science of Krishna consciousness. Sometimes this is one nature of impediment in Krishna consciousness. Other than these impediments, see, I'm talking about two kinds of impediments. The impediments which is coming due to Vaishnava prad and the impediment which is coming due to the desire of Krishna. Other than these two impediments, nothing else can affect the absorption or prove as an impediment in the practice of Krishna consciousness. Sometimes some impediments come by the desire of Krishna also. For example, Bharat Maharaj. He was very swiftly like a Rajdhani Express going back home, back to Godhead. But then Krishna wanted to teach a lesson to the whole world. And Krishna, when he wants to teach a lesson to the whole world, he makes his pure devotees as his instrument. So he made an instrument out of Bharat Maharaj and delayed his journey back home, back to Godhead by 3 stations. Bharat Maharaj, dear Bharat, and Jad Bharat. And with that, he taught a lesson to the whole world. Of course, one may be argued that that is an impediment. He was about to go back home and back to God in that lifetime only. Maya Dhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. Krishna sent that lion and that pregnant deer there. And then he, being the Paramatma in his heart, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. He was Satatam Kirtayanto Mam Yatantascha Dridhavrata. Bharat Maharaj was there on that platform. Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. He was doing that. But Dadami Buddhi Yogam didn't happen at that. Because Krishna wanted to teach the whole world a lesson. So one can say this is an impediment. But this is a good impediment. Another impediment comes which in the life of Jay and Vijay. They come to the material world as three lives of demon. But that impediment further improved their love of God. They became more intense in their desire to serve Guru and Krishna. Sorry, not Guru, only Krishna, because they are Vaikuntvasis. So they increased their love for Krishna through that impediment. So sometimes Krishna gives an impediment in the life of a devotee only to make the devotee more hanker for the Lord. Sometimes Krishna purposely does not remove an anartha just to make the devotee hanker more and more and more, pray more and more and more. One of the examples is Narad Muni. He really wanted to take darshan of the Lord and he had all the good qualification to do so. But the Lord Sir told that in this lifetime only this much. That I'm talking about the previous life of Narad Muni, when he was the son of a maid servant. And he hankered so much, and he hankered so much, and he hankered so much, that at the time of his death, all he could think was of the name, form, qualities and pastimes of Krishna and that beautiful darshan of Krishna. So he immediately left his body. The Bhagavatam says that it was like a thunderbolt. Just like a thunderbolt comes and goes. Similarly, just in one moment he left his body and in the next moment he was out of his body. And then he later took birth as Narad Muni when Brahma again did the creation. Needless to say, I've mentioned else, I've read it in other sources that since that time when Narad Muni saw till the last breath of his life, he was engaged wandering all around the world and preaching and chanting. So in that way, Narad Muni's hankering for the Lord was increased through one impediment which was given by Krishna. So when impediments come due to Vaishnava prad, that is an impediment where the devotee really suffers. Sometimes it takes lifetimes. In case of Daksha, we are still waiting for that impediment to go away. And sometimes in case of Maharaj Raghugana, it immediately goes away. But whenever an impediment comes by the mercy of the Lord, it adds to the glory of bhakti. It establishes the glory of bhakti yoga in front of everybody. And one of the foremost examples of such an impediment is the glorious life of Maharaj Priyavrat, when he was literally brought down out of the forest into the world of administration with so many material anxieties which he had to take. But we will read in the text number 5 of this chapter, you will see, it's a very, very nice verse. One who is attached to the nectarian honey of the Lord's lotus feet and whose mind is always absorbed in his glories may sometimes be checked by some impediment, but he still never gives up the exalted position he has acquired. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. In whatever circumstances one should serve the Lord. Narayana parasarve na kutaschana bibhyati swarga apavarga narakeshu api tulyartha darshan. This is Krishna consciousness. That no matter in what circumstances I am, no matter in what situation I am, no matter in what potency of Krishna consciousness I am, even if I fall down like an animal, in all situations, I should try my best. Even if I am in a situation where I am not able to chant my 16 rounds properly, but still I should keep trying. If I cannot run, I should at least crawl in this path of Krishna consciousness. Nothing can act as an impediment in Krishna consciousness except Vaishnava Prad and the Lord's supreme desire. Everything else can be taken care of by the mercy of Guru. If one sincerely tries to follow the instructions of their spiritual master, one will not face so many difficulties in Krishna consciousness. So, Prabhupada ends the purport by saying, when one is satisfied in family life, he is doomed because he must already have forgotten his relationship with the Lord. If one tries to find happiness in any other place or in any other thing other than the holy name and the description of the glories of the Lord, that means they are in Maya. I repeat, if one tries to find happiness in any other place other than the holy name and Srimad Bhagavatam, that means they are in Maya. So, trying to find happiness in family life is also one kind of Maya. And if one has become satisfied in that way, that means they must have forgotten. Swarup Vismriti must have happened. Definitely. So therefore, Prahlad Maharaj describes how the activities of family life implicate one more and more. Now, the people in family life, they call themselves very selfless people. I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it for my children. I'm doing it for my grandchildren. I'm doing it for the society. I'm doing it for the welfare of my family. After Jesus Christ, I'm the next most selfless person. I've earned so much, but I hardly eat 2 rotis. I just sleep in that corner. The whole house is for my children and my relatives. They come, they use my car, they use my bank account, they use my clothes, they use my wardrobe. They steal 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 in front of me, and I praise them. And I'm just satisfied. I'm living like a sannyasi in my house. And in that way they claim that they are very selfless and they are not into materialistic household life. But sad news, they are completely into materialistic household life. There are some honest people who try to do sense gratification. They are better than such materialistic householders who try to do extended self-gratification. They are giving sense gratification to their extended self. And in that way they are saying that I am not doing anything for myself. So this ignorance is greater than that person who is trying to do direct sense gratification for the personal self. So such kind of people do not deserve respect in the society. At least devotees, as a social etiquette, one can, behave respectfully from them, but there is no need to respect such people from the heart. Because they are cheaters. They have forgotten the real purpose of life. And they are happily living in that situation, forgetting the purpose of life. So therefore, there are personalities like Shukdev Goswami, who should go to such houses and should shake them up. The main problem of becoming happy in materialistic household life is that one becomes lukewarm in devotional service. It's better to be hot in devotional service or be cold in devotional service, because there is hope for both hot and cold. But there is very less hope for those who are lukewarm in devotional service. Until unless one gets a tight kick from the Lord Nityananda, there is really no hope. So therefore, it is the job of all the preachers of Krishna consciousness to enlighten people to understand what is Grihastha life. Prahlad Maharaj says, Hitvatmapatam Grihamandha Kopam. Household life, Specifically speaking, we are speaking about materialistic household life. When devotees try to lead a grihastha life under the order of spiritual master and Krishna and Prabhupada, then that is not materialistic household life. That is Vaishnava life. But I am talking about materialistic family life, which is like a dark well. And if one falls into this well, his spiritual death is assured. My spiritual master gives the example of crabs. So materialistic household life is like staying with crabs. When some crabs are put together on a plate, if one crab tries to go out, the other crabs will pull them down. So therefore, fishermen after catching crab, they don't cover the crab. They freely take them in a bucket. Because they know that no crab can come out. Even if one crab tries to go out, other crabs will pull them down. So materialistic household life is like that. Even if one tries to become self-realized, others will not let them become self-realized. So therefore there is a strong need, like Srila Prabhupada says. People are sitting in front of their television, looking out of their window, hoping that the servants of Gaur Nitai will come and help us out of our material life. So followers of Srila Prabhupada should travel all around the world. I'm using the word should because Prabhupada uses the word should. So followers of Srila Prabhupada should travel all around the world and save all these television viewers from the horror of materialistic family life. How Prevrat Maharaj remained a liberated Paramahamsa even within family life. This means it is possible to remain a liberated Paramahamsa even within family life. The best example is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He is an Acharya. An Acharya can be an Acharya in household life also, provided they follow the instructions of whichever ashram they are. Every ashram has some advantages and some disadvantages. If one tries to enjoy the advantages of that ashram but denies the austerities of that ashram, then one is not entitled to be in that ashram and ultimately one falls down in that ashram. So if one carefully understands what is the austerities of an ashram and what are the advantages and disadvantages of an ashram and carefully conducts themselves, not becoming a mithyachari in that ashram, then every ashram is suitable to go back home, back to Gaur. So on that note, I would like to conclude today's discussion. If there are any questions, comments, reflections, they are welcome.
Regarding this Vaishnava Parad, so as mentioned, the Vaishnava Parad can take lifetimes to get rid of, or even if sometime like Maharaj Rahula. And also we heard this statement that Vaishnava Parad is like a liquor pot which is washed, still there is some smell. So what does it mean? It means that the aroma is the tendency to do Vaishnava Parad, or it has its own effects again. That is one question. And next question, that maybe is it Vaishnava or Lord's desire? That devotee has to still go more pure Krishna. But whenever he is going through that, what is the sustaining factor for the devotee? What should his consciousness? Because we have seen many devotees after some time, after a long time also, they are getting out of Krishna consciousness. So how can a devotee sustain? Correct.
Hare Krishna. Your first question was, how can one get rid of Vaishnava Prad? It seems to be very sticky, sticks around. Like we see in case of Daksha. Although he had the darshan of the Lord, although he apologized to Lord Shiva, whom he had offended, but in the next lifetime we still see the traces remain, and he again has the tendency of offending Narad Muni, and he actually offends Narad Muni also. So how to get rid of it? Only by the mercy of a devotee. One can get rid of the tendency to do Vaishnava Prad and the effects of Vaishnava Prad. There is no other way. When our repentance is not very sincere, when our repentance is not heartfelt, then there is a very good chance that one will do the Vaishnava Aparadha again. But when we have actually understood that what I am doing is wrong, doesn't matter who is wrong, who is right. Even if one Vaishnava in this whole creation has a grudge against me, I cannot go back home, back to Godhead. Doesn't matter who is wrong, who is right. Even if I have a grudge against any other Vaishnava in this whole universe, I cannot go back home, back to Godhead. Until one comes to this realization, and until one seriously desires that I do not want any impediment which is self-created, and in this mood one tries to go and beg forgiveness and sincerely repents and does not repeat the mistake and continues to be in condemnation, personal self-condemnation, remembering what they have done, until unless this happens, and this happens only by the mercy of Guru or a pure devotee of the Lord, until then one cannot get rid of the tendency to do Vaishnava Aparadha or even the effects of Vaishnava Aparadha. This we have seen in Chaitanya Leela also. This we see in Krishna Leela also. We see in various purports of Srimad Bhagavatam also. We see it in the example of Indra also. He was not doing Vaishnava Aparadha, he was doing Vishnu Aparadha. He offended the Supreme Vishnu, Krishna, during the Govardhan Leela, and in the same Krishna Leela, he again offended Krishna in the Parijat Leela, because his repentance was not sincere. But that is not the case with Brahma. Lord Brahma, when he offended Lord Krishna, he repented so much that he got darshan of Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya has given him benediction that for the rest of your lifetime as Lord Brahma, you will not do any aparadha or any offense. And Lord Chaitanya gave him the key of how not to do any Vaishnava Aparadha, or how to become free of the tendency to do Vaishnava Aparadha. And the key was to chant incessantly Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. 3 lakh times Brahmaji was doing as Haridas Thakur. So only a transformation of heart can help us to not do Vaishnava Aparadha or get rid of the effects of Vaishnava Aparadha. Only the fire of Harinam can help us to get rid of Vaishnava Aparadha and the tendency of Vaishnava Aparadha. So, if one has done Vaishnava Aparadha, they should fall at the feet of that devotee with tears in their eyes. One should beg forgiveness. And if somehow or the other the grudge is not going away, either in the heart of the Vaishnava who was offended or either in the heart of the person who has done the offense, the only shelter is to chant the holy name as much as possible, as more as possible. Answering your second question, which was, what was the second question? How to sustain. When somebody is going through an impediment in life, that is the what we read in prayers of Lord Brahma, Tatte Nukampam Susamikshaman. One has to go through the suffering, offering their body, mind and words to Krishna, earnestly hoping against hope to get his mercy. This is the only way. There is no other way. We cannot do anything to force Lord Krishna to take us out of an impediment. We have to simply, sincerely wait for his mercy. And in the time while we are waiting for his mercy, one cannot be in a complaining attitude. One has to simply go through it thinking that it is the result of my own past misdeeds. And then thinking less about that result of, thinking less of the fact that it is a result of my own past deeds and thinking more about the glory of the Lord and offering mind, word and body in the service of the Lord. One has to simply pass their time in Krishna consciousness. Then one can go through any impediment. When someone goes through any impediment like this in such an attitude, Krishna becomes attracted to him. And then he takes charge very quickly and he ends everything. Sometimes Krishna likes to put his devotees in impediments because in impediments devotees relish separation from Krishna and Krishna relishes that more. So one should know that whatever gives pleasure to Krishna one should be ready to do, even if it looks like an impediment. Only in this consciousness, this is a very high consciousness which I am speaking about, not from realization. But this is what I've read in Bhagavatam. I hope this answers your question. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Bhakti Vrinda ki jai, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.